right. Hello, everyone. Let's get another one going here. So, today I want to talk about something that has impacted my whole life, including right now, this very moment. I'm a junkie. I'm a junkie. I'm a sober junkie, but I'm a junkie. Addiction. It's time to talk about addiction. Um, if you are not currently struggling with it, I'm sure you know more than one or two or three or four or five or 20 people who are. Because life is fucking hard. And when things get hard, we want relief. And one of the easiest ways to get relief is just to smoke something, pop something, pop something, and get that little itchy nose, euphoria, the warm feeling just wash over your body, and you just feel like, oh yeah, everything's okay. When there's like a fucking storm going on around you, right? And that's why I ultimately ended up using the substances that I ended up using and found myself in a situation where I was like, oh my God, I can't stop this shit. Which was really fucked up and hard for me because I've had a lot of people model to me in my life that drugs are bad, alcohol is bad. In excess, it's going to take you out, including my father. So, my father was a heroin junkie and he left me when I was 5 years old and stayed out of my life for my entire life. And it wasn't until me as a grown man at, 33 years old found out that he was still around and got him to be in a film that I made and forgave him on film in an actual narrative feature that I made called Flesh and Blood. Check that out. Anyway, I was like, I never want to be my dad, and then I became my fucking dad. So genetics, it's real. Um, but my story, let me tell you my story. I got kicked out of high school. And part of the reason is I started smoking weed when I was like 15 years old in Philadelphia when Philly blunts were just reaching a height that had never been seen before. Um, and I was like, I live in Philly. So these Philly blunts, like I'm from Philly. And I started rolling blunts and smoking blunts when I was 15 with my crew, with my guys. I was in a graffiti crew, and we would get high and we would go out and bomb rooftops and subways. And it was the life, to be honest. Um, Getting high with my friends was an incredible bonding experience. And as you all know, most of you, I'm sure, when you partake in marijuana, you get over that initial like paranoia of like, oh my God, who the fuck am I? What have I done? I'm too high. And it settles in and you can get really introspective in a cool way. It's almost like a meditative practice, right? It accelerates that. At least it did for me. It made me go inward and kind of take inventory and stock of like, okay, where am I? What am I doing? Am I doing enough? And I always wanted to be an actor, and being in films and making films was such a top priority and a dream of mine that like I never wanted to jeopardize that or like dull my blade, I guess, right? Um and so initially, although I would get high as shit, smoking weed was pretty good. It made me make some interesting choices as an artist. It created this, like I was saying, this introspective thing that would happen that was kind of incredible. And it was an amazing thing to do with my brothers, to sit in a circle and smoke a blunt and then smoke another blunt and talk and hang out and laugh and create, you know? Um, and I often think, man, if I were just able to smoke weed, maybe I'd be all right, you know? Um, but there was also something that was starting to happen, when you start to use a substance, any substance, coffee, right? You end up relying on it. And if you don't have it, things aren't great. And that started to happen with weed. It was like, man, so and so ran out, and I would go through withdrawal, and we'd all go around and we'd collect the roaches from the blunts, and then we'd open up the roach blunts to roll another blunt from the roaches. And then shit got real bad when we were rolling roach blunts from the roach blunt blunts. And then it was like scraping the inside of bowls, and it was like real junkie behavior just surrounding weed. Um and the thought of like going out to eat or going to see a movie or hanging out or doing anything for that matter without being high felt like the worst. So that was a red flag. I was really dependent on weed, all through my teen years into my mid 20s. Not ever really a big alcohol drinker at that point. I was a pothead, right? And it was like you either drank or you smoked, and the people that drank and smoked, they were already on a different track. And so there was a lot of rationalization and justification for my use of weed, because that was it. I was Mr. All Natural. I just smoked weed until, uh, rest his soul, rest in peace, one of my dear friends, Samuel Medina, who is no longer with us because of heroin, introduced me to a little white pill called Vicodin. And I'll never forget the moment that I had my first Vicodin. I was with my friend Samuel. At this point, I'm working, I'm making films. Um, and I went from New York, where I was living, out to Los Angeles. And he was staying in a house that we called Liberace's Mansion, because there was a pool in the backyard that was in the shape of a piano. And for some reason, my friend Samuel was the most wild dude you'd ever meet, the coolest fucking guy. And he would always be into some crazy ass shit. So I got to stay with him at Liberace's Mansion. And he had this bright cherry red Jeep. Um, and he was driving around LA, and he picks me up and he takes me back to the spot, and we're smoking weed, and he's like, you ever try one of these? And I was like, nah, I don't really fuck with pills, and in the back of my head, I'm like, man, those Vicodins, those Percocet, those Oxys, like it's basically just heroin in a pill form. And I don't want to be my dad, but it was pretty high, the sun was shining, life was good. My life was good. And I was like, what's one pill gonna do? I took that pill, that Vicodin. We got into his Jeep and we started cruising down Sunset, and the sun was out and the wind just hitting us, and the warmth from the sun, suddenly it kicked in, and it felt like I was being embraced by the universe. That any fear or doubt, worry, it was gone. And I was like, oh shit. It got me. One and done. I was like, I need to feel like this all the time. And, this was a thing. People that know, you know, when you take a lot of Percocet or Vicodin or Oxys, you get this good itch. It's like your fucking nose itches so much you need to take a piece of sandpaper to it. Just like, but it's like a good itch, you know? And you knew the pills were good and it was good when you got that itch. Um, yeah. Oh, rest in peace, Juice World. He had a great lyric. Perky's got me itching like an anthill. Um, and that's where that comes from, right? This itch that you get. Anyway, I got the itch and the warmth and the euphoria and the taking away of any pain. Physical gone and the mental was gone until I didn't have any more pills. Oof. Then the mental pain and the physical pain of like, oh my god, like, you know, you take a lot of pills and you stop shitting, and you know, you're like, you become a slave to them. And I got back from Los Angeles to New York. I didn't have the pills, and I just had the weed, and the weed was no longer enough. And I'm texting Samuel, I'm calling Samuel. I'm like, man, you got to get me some more of those. So now I'm sending Samuel Western Unions. I'm wiring him money to go buy me pills and FedEx them to me. So I'm getting FedEx envelopes, you know, with like 40 pills in them. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna make this last. And then suddenly 40 pills were gone in 2 fucking days. And it got real bad. And it got even worse because another pill got introduced to me in the mix of this. So I had my opiates and I had my weed, but I had one more. And this one, I call this pill the devil. It's the devil pill. And anybody that's ever had to withdraw from them or has had any experience with them, I know you can relate. Those are called the benzos, Xannies, Xanax, Valium. There's another one I would take a lot of that I just forget the name right now. But Xanax, bars, sticks, we would call them. I believe they were 5 milligram or 2.5 milligram sticks. You're meant to break them off into quarters. I'm fucking eating whole bars. And when I had those Xannies, now all inhibitions are gone. I could put me in any social situation, talk to anybody at a premiere, in an audition, like inhibition's gone. I was fearless, and the combination of benzos with opiates, it's like a wonderful cocktail when it's working. But when it's not, and when it runs out, it's the worst. You literally want to fucking die. And I would go through these withdrawals, and suddenly my whole life became centered around making sure I could always have access to pills. And if I didn't, my life was a living hell. And there would be dry periods where it was really hard to get, and I would steal from people. I would go into people's houses at like a party, someone's mom's house, and go through their medicine cabinet. I would take their fucking pills. Full junkie status. And that was incredibly painful, you know, because I felt like a piece of shit, you know. And anybody who's in the throngs of addiction, you feel like that. You feel like a piece of shit. And suddenly my morals, everything was in jeopardy. It didn't matter, you know. I would steal from whoever to make sure I could get my fix. And it starts to pay a price on you physically. When you're taking Xanax at the volume that I was taking Xanax, you black out. And like a different blackout than drinking. It's like you don't fucking remember shit. It wipes your memory. So I would wake up in places with somebody and be like, I don't know how the fuck I got here. And that's really scary, you know? It's really scary not to be able to piece together weeks, months of your life, you know, not knowing how you got from one point to another. And, about 2 years into really heavy usage like this, I really started to have these moments of clarity, right? That they call it. Um, when you're, in early sobriety, where I would, you know, I'd wake up, and before I get up and piss, I'd reach over to my side table, pop 2 sticks of Xanny, 3 Percocet, let it sit under my tongue for a minute until it got softened by my saliva. And then I'd chew it into this paste. And I'd swallow down the paste. And it would taste good to me. The chemical taste. And this is after I'd just woken up. Because as soon as I woke up, the thoughts start, like the anxiety, the pain, the shame, the guilt, everything just starts ramming you hard. And it's like I had to get this stuff in my mouth as soon as my eyes opened before I got up and pissed in the morning in order to get relief. And it's so sad. And my heart goes out to any and all of you right now who are suffering. I feel you. I know your pain. I know what you're going through right now. And now it's wild because, fentanyl is in these pills now, the ones that are being pressed and made, and you could die like instantly, and it's scary. It's like Russian roulette every time you go out to cop nowadays. So I'm so grateful that I'm not caught up in it right now, and it's extra scary right now. But like I was saying, I'm so grateful I started to have these moments of clarity, and that I had people around me who could point me in the direction of a meeting. And the first meeting I went to was my baby mama, my first baby mama, Frankie Shaw, who's a dear friend of mine now, and is friends with Teresa, and I love her husband Zach, and we're like a modern family, and it's so beautiful. But Frankie was one of the first people to point me in the direction of an AA meeting in New York City. And I remember that feeling, going to my first meeting and sitting around, and everyone's like, "Hi, I'm Sam. I'm an alcoholic," and sharing their experiences. Suddenly, I wasn't alone anymore, and that was a relief greater than these drugs. I'm sitting in this room, kind of sweating and coming off these substances, but I'm getting relief from hearing from other junkies talking about their pain and suffering. And I was like, not alone anymore. And so some of the guilt and the shame started to lift, because I was like, oh, there are people who are just like me. And it was beautiful. And excuse me, I am so grateful for those meetings, for going through the steps. The 12 steps, I believe, are beautiful. And it really helped me on my journey with sobriety to string together enough time, and then I would relapse and get more time. And it's been a journey for me, including up to not that long ago, where I started dabbling in kratom and kratom again, which then turned into these fucking 7-0 pills that is like an epidemic right now. And for those that know, you know what I'm talking about. When them 7-0s get you, it's a problem. It's a big problem. But anyway, I have a powerful community around me, and I've done a lot of work on myself initially through the 12 steps, then through an amazing, beautiful rehab in Arizona called the Meadows. Shout out the Meadows. If you can get to that rehab, run there now. If you are in need, if you can get into the Meadows, it's beautiful. The program there, it was like I went to college. Rehab was like college for me. I would sit in all these beautiful lectures and learn about the way our brains work, and do a deep dive and do therapy, and really uncover why I was using and what I was numbing and why I was numbing, and starting to address the root causes of it. Because with addiction, the problem is not actually the drugs. The problem is, what's your problem, right? Was it because your dad left you when you were a little boy and you felt abandoned and you've been struggling with that pain? Was it because someone you loved died? Was it because you were abused? Was it because you lost something, right? And or someone. Um, and and until you address the root cause of why you're using the substances, you're going to continue to find substances, and you're going to use those substances to address your pain. And so rehab was beautiful because I learned so much about why I was making these choices and was able to make changes. And when you string together enough time, sobriety becomes fucking amazing. It's like the best. It's better than any day that I've been fucked up on pills. I'm going to choose sobriety because feeling my feelings in real time and processing my feelings in real time without an interference is so vital for me, because I'm an overthinker. I think too much. I analyze too much. And the drugs would cut off that noise for a moment, right? But the problem is, it would just push them down, right? They're not getting processed; they're getting pushed down. And so when I would come off the substances, they all come flooding back, and it's like, what the fuck is this? Like, I can't function. This is too much. The anxiety, the depression, the mood swings. And so when you take those substances away, that blocker, that buffer, and you allow yourself just to feel your feelings in real time, man, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, you know, to be like, I'm really sad right now, and I'm just going to feel sad. But this feeling of sadness is going to pass through my body. Or I'm really angry right now. I'm so pissed off, but I'm not going to stay angry forever. I'm going to sit here and process this, and I'm going to let this anger go through my body, and it's going to leave me. And it's such a beautiful thing, right? To be able to live life without any buffer, you know? So I can trust the feelings that I have nowadays, right? The good ones. And they feel that much more rich and meaningful because I know that there's no interference, right? So anyway, that's part of my story. And this will be part of kind of an addiction series. I want to talk with more people who are in active recovery, who are in active using, you know. I want to hear your story, and I want to unpack stuff here on this channel and get into it a bit more, because today's drug scene is wild. In the smoke shops now, like I was saying, you can go in and get these 7-0 pills, which are basically like 12 times stronger than morphine, and people think that they were a derivative from kratom and kratom, but they're not. They're a synthetic version of an alkaloid that's in kratom called 7-midagrani. Probably pronouncing that bad. 7-hydroxy midagrani. That's why the short acronym is 7-0. And you can get that in a fucking gas station. And so, and then you got fentanyl, and then in Philly you got these elephant tranquilizers. Trank is what they call it. People taking elephant tranquilizers. Literally, zombie land is what my old neighborhood in North Philly is, and what it's called. It's really disturbing, and fentanyl is just so scary, and I should be dead 10 times over just from the combination of drugs that I was taking back then. And nowadays with fentanyl, it's really frightening. And I have 6 children, and I am grateful that I'm sober and able to give them the tools to navigate their use of substances when that time comes. And I am so grateful that I did all these fucked up things and made all these horrible choices and really pushed my body and my mind and my spirit to the brink so that I can help guide my children so that they can learn from the choices that I made, so I can sit with them and I can talk with them and they can have no guilt or shame or fear about the choices that they're making. And that's what kills so many people. That's what takes so many people out, is the guilt and the fear and the shame that they have for their drug problem, and for feeling like the biggest piece of shit, and for feeling like they only ruin the relationships around them, and that you're worthless and not worthy of love, and that takes you out. And I'm here today to say, well, that's a bunch of bullshit. Of course you're worthy of love, and you're not alone. And that guilt and that shame, it can be lifted. You can lift it. So if you're currently struggling right now, I encourage you, get to a meeting. Find a meeting. They're everywhere. Wherever you live, it doesn't matter if you're in Finland, there's a meeting. And typically most AA meetings that are for Alcoholics Anonymous, they'll take you in if you're a junkie, Some have some things about like, well, we don't talk about cocaine or we don't talk about pills here. We just talk about alcohol, and you got to find an NA meeting, Narcotics Anonymous. Go find one of those. But for the most part, even if it's just an AA meeting, they're going to take you in. And go get taken in. Get a sponsor. Do the steps. Start doing the work. And your life will get so much better.